Guys, I just recorded this entire video, and then I went back to watch it before uploading it, and my mic was muted the whole time. So here we are again. I was asked for a rulebook read-along. I'm giving you a rulebook read-along, except I'm not going to read through the entire thing. One, because there's a lot of things here that are pretty self-explanatory or you should already know. And two, because I just recorded this video and I'm not in the mood to read through everything. So that's how this is going to go. Anyways, let's get started. In this video, I'll be explaining some things in the rulebook that are more complicated things in the rulebook that you may not just understand at first glance. And just really anything else that is important to know. I'll be going over the most important things only. So yeah, let's get started. First of all, schedule. Pretty straightforward. Every day's here. The one thing to keep in mind here is that regular season ends on a Saturday, and the first round of Swiss stage, which is playoffs, starts on that Sunday. So there's one day between the end of regular season and the first day of playoffs. Luckily, this one day of playoffs is the only day that isn't an elimination round. So that's why we were okay with doing that. Also, if you played in FBDL Season 0, you'll remember our best of 5 format that we had going there. This round is a best of 5, while the rest of playoffs, all these rounds, are best of 7s. So this one round is best of 5, which is described later in the rulebook, and we're not going to go over directly, but I'll go over the best of 7, which is pretty similar. For eligibility, all this stuff is pretty straightforward. Main things to note here is, realistically, it says right here you must provide all your accounts, which, yes, you should. I'm not going to punish you for disclosing an account to me of your own free will later on. There's 2 scenarios here in which we get punished for hiding accounts. One is if you disclose it to me later on and it is an account that would have changed your point value and you had at the time of pointing. And 2 is if we find your undisclosed accounts. So basically what I'm saying is, draft hasn't happened yet. If you're going to disclose any accounts, if you're hiding any accounts, let us know now. Now's the time to do it before there could be punishments. Other important thing to note here is the wording on these 2 rules. Note here that it says subject to removal, not just straight up removal, which means if your account is suspended, your account is permanently banned. This will be treated on a case-by-case basis. There may be cases in which we don't just remove you from the league depending on why you were banned, if you can provide proof that you didn't actually do it. If it isn't something that you did that's against our rulebook, we may let you play on a different account. We'll see. But do note that wording there. One thing to note here with name changes is it says to submit it on the website. There is a page on the website for it, but it's admin only for now because there's some stuff on there I don't want anyone being able to do, or everyone being able to do. So for now, open a ticket for name changes. You can DM me. I know you will. But I'd prefer you open a ticket, please. Player acceptance already happened. Captaining, this is for captains. Please read it. I expect you guys to read the rulebook if no one else, so I'm not going to go over this right now. If you have any questions, ask me. Draft. Things to note here. It does not actually say here. It does. Yes. Main thing to note here is draft order is tier 1, then tier 3, then tier 2. Not 1, 2, 3, or 3, 2, 1. It's 1, then 3, then 2. Just usually better to fill up your empty slots at the end with tier 2 players than tier 3. So that's the main reason why there. One thing to note here is if you're curious where Reborn's pick slots were before all the million trades he's done, he was captain 1. Obviously, this is a 8-team example, and it's 10 teams, but other than that, it's not really different. He was captain 1, and I don't know how many of these pick slots he still has. Not many is the answer. Not many at all, if any, actually. But yeah. You guys have seen trades going through up to staff discretion, whether they get accepted or not. So any trades you've seen gone through, we accepted for one reason or another. Thing to note here, each player must play a minimum 11 games, maximum 14 games. If you are outside of that range by the end of the season, your team is disqualified from playoffs. You can't make playoffs unless all your players are within this range. It's a pretty wide range. It's not too hard to make. Should be pretty straightforward there. Trading, whatever. Subs is pretty important. Some stuff is different here from last season. There's 2 ways you can get a sub in regular season. So playoff rules are different. We'll get through those later. For regular season, subs can only happen in 2 ways. One is if a player drops from your team and you need a sub for the rest of the season, then we can figure out a replacement there. And 2 is a more niche situation, which is if you're going into the last day of regular season, or maybe even the second to last day, and one of your players that hasn't reached minimum games yet unexpectedly can't make it. We'll allow a sub for them, but 1, they must be a clear downgrade as perceived by staff for their replacing, and 2, they can only play enough games to reach the minimum games to that player. So if you're going into last day and one of your tier 3 players has 9 games, you can get a clear downgrade to replace them, and they can only play 2 games to reach that 11. That's it. So that's how sub rules work for that. Roles, players can play either of the 2 roles they are assigned, and they can choose which role they're playing at any point during draft or even right after draft. So there's some flexibility there, and it buffs up players that can play both their roles. Role swaps are a thing. Captains are given 2 role swaps per season to use for free. These role swaps cannot be used during a game. They can be used between games. They can be used between series. Cannot be used during a game. Playoff rules are a little bit different regarding this. Slightly different. For the most part, the same though. So yeah, 2 role swaps are free. You can get 3 more role swaps after that, but you'll get point deductions for that. We'll talk about points later. So yeah. Regular season procedures. Main thing to know here is timeliness. This is more important for players than captains, surprisingly enough. Captains are usually on top of this. Rosters must be submitted by 7:45 p.m. Eastern on game day. This is important for players because can you guys please let your captains know if you're going to make it or not by 7:45? Because if you don't, captains are put in this weird situation to where they might have a player planned to play, but if they don't know for sure if they're going to make it or not, do they submit the roster? Do they not submit the roster? Do they gamble? So please let your captains know ahead of time if you are going to be making it that day. Most captains I'll see will usually do a check at least a few minutes before 7:45 Eastern. Just be responsive. That's all I'm asking. Eases up pressure on captains, eases up potential conflicts we have during game day where you submit an invalid roster and receive punishment for that, which we'll talk about in 2 rules down. But yeah, timeliness is important. You have 15 minutes between games, 10 minutes after the previous game to submit roster, 5 minutes after that to get into draft and lobby. Pretty straightforward stuff. There are penalties outlined here. Penalties for this kind of stuff is enforced on a case-by-case basis. We can't realistically have staff watching every single match this in-depth to timing every single match to see how it goes. All I can say is if you're a player or a captain on the team, whoever's responsible that day for the team, take screenshots. Have proof ready in case you are wanting to enforce penalties on timeliness. Just be prepared for that. If it is in a situation to where you want to enforce a penalty, you'll have to let the game day ref on the day know, or me or Hierarchs or someone who's available, who's not playing in the league, who can be impartial. Let them know, provide proof if possible, and we'll go from there. If you don't want to apply penalties, you don't have to enforce penalties. It's up to you. If you're feeling nice that day, it's fine. We already talked about this. This is pretty important. This is new. If a roster is submitted and any sort of issue is found in submission, any player cannot play for any reason. The player can be subbed out for another player on the team with a ban loss. We don't want this to be abusable, but we also want to have some flexibility for if players can't play. Like stuff happens, emergencies happen, things pop up. So the first infraction of this is -1 ban. Second is -3. Third is -5 bans. Fourth onwards is -5 bans and a loss of 3 standings points, which again, we'll talk about standings points soon. But it's a pretty big penalty, so all you need to know for now. Basically, if you think you might not be able to play a game, don't to be submitted on the roster. Let your captain know. If an issue like this happens after draft for that game, if a player has to be substituted out, that's not a thing. It's either you FF the game or you play out a 4v5. So yeah, that's how that works. This is all pretty straightforward. Side select for the first game goes to the team with the lower point value. For games 2 and 3, it's whoever lost the previous game. Pretty straightforward stuff. All pretty self-explanatory. This season, so I know last season during streamed games, we required draft level. This season, use whatever you want for draft tools. It doesn't really matter. We can accommodate any draft website now with stream production, which is pretty cool. Let's see. Oh, pretty straightforward stuff. Read through it, though, but not stuff I need to explain to you. Okay, standings. So this is like I was talking about earlier, where it gets a bit interesting. Standings for FBDL, for those of you who haven't played in FBDL Season 1 or watched it at all, they're not based solely on win-loss. It's based on a point system where win-loss is still king. Win-loss should be the most important thing regardless, but it's based on a lot more than that. There's all these different incentives that can also net you points that go towards standings. There's also penalties down here. So to start, win-loss isn't on the table, so I'm going to show it right here. Right here. Each team is awarded 10 points for a game win, which is the most points of any incentive by far per game. So, like I said before, win-loss is still the most important thing. But the rest of these are still important, so make sure to pay attention here. Bold, this was here last season, but it's been reworked a bit to make it easier to attain, a little more attractive. Prior to Champ Select, you can choose to give up all first phase bans, and if you win the game, you get 3 points. If you're under other ban penalties already, for timeliness, for subbing a player out, whatever it may be, then you can't take bold, obviously, because that makes things a bit weird. But if you're not, you have this option. Diversity, this was a big hit last season, has not changed at all. It worked perfectly. The point of diversity is to encourage, well, roster diversity, and high tiers playing with lower tiers. It's to dissuade high pointing, low pointing, and it works great. So basically, you get plus 2 points for every single game where one of your rosters contains a player of each tier. So if your roster has a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3 player, last two can be whatever, you'll get the plus 2 points for that game, win or loss. Increased minimum is a new one. For every game above the minimum required, so 11 in this case, that a tier 3 player has played, you get the plus 1 point. This is by the end of the season. And for each tier 2 player you have at max games, you get plus 2 points at the end of the season again. Win streak. People were a little confused on this last season, so I'll explain this. After 3 consecutive wins, each consecutive win afterwards will get the point reward, which is plus 1 points. This means that you don't get this on the 3rd win. This is each win afterwards, which is where people were confused last season. So the 4th win in the win streak, the 5th win, the 6th win, etc., you'll get plus 1 for each of those. Upsets, pretty straightforward. If you're down 20 points, you win a game on your roster, plus 1 point. Down 30 points, 2 point. 45 points, 3 points. Pretty straightforward stuff. Unique champions, this was your last season as well. Again, like Bold, it wasn't really sought after, so we did rework it a bit. We made it curved to where the lower thresholds are closer together to make it more appealing to go for that next threshold. And we also lowered the points of the first threshold. So 50 unique champions by the end of the season throughout your entire team combined, 5 points. 75, 12, 90 champions, 20 points, 100 champions, which if you get sick, I doubt anyone will, but that'd be cool. 30 points. It's a lot of points. It's 3 whole wins. Content. This one's cool. I wanted more content, so I'm giving you points for it. That's basically what's happening here. There are 3 designated blocks, which you can see down here. For if your team posts a single piece of content that is of decent quality, that is determined by me and staff, then you'll get plus 2 points in that block. That's it. Pretty straightforward stuff. Post some decent quality content, which basically just means you put some effort into it, and you'll get some points. Pretty easy. If you want to submit the content in a ticket before you post it to see if it would get you the points, see if you need to change it at all, feel free to do so. We can tell you. Now we're getting into penalties. Forfeit penalty, I'm just skip to this piece, really straightforward. Forfeit a game, minus 5 points. That's all there's really to it. The team who gets forfeited against will get plus 1 points to make up for any incentives they may have gotten for the game. Forfeit minus 5. High pointing, this one's a little more confusing. So, quick math here. If you take all 11 players on your roster, add up their point values, divide them by 11, then multiply them by 5, that is considered your average roster value. So if you take that and you add 18 to that, last season was 20. Important to note it's 18 this season. If you add 18 to that, that is your high point roster threshold. If your roster, any roster you submit, is at that threshold or above, minus 3 points. Win or loss. High pointing is discouraged here. We want even rosters throughout the season, banger games, high points playing with low points, diversity and high point. The high pointing penalty and the diversity reward make this work. It's pretty great how it worked last season, so we're keeping that going this season. Have not changed it pretty much at all, except for the 20 to 18. Because some captains were saying it was pretty hard to get to that 20 point while keeping diversity, so we're restricting that a little bit more to see how it goes. 2 points. Roll swaps, already talked about this. Third, fourth, and fifth roll swap are minus 2 points each. This is a little bit outdated, but rough example of how standings look. If you want an actual look at how standings look, Draft League, archive seasons, go to season 1, go to standings, you can see there. Playoffs, there's 10 teams this season, top 8 qualify for playoffs. Some quick sub rules. Subs, last season, people were complaining about how they worked, so we solved that problem. Subs are now on a game-by-game basis, but vetting for these subs is stricter than regular season subs because of that. Subs must be submitted 48 hours before series, or those are minus 2 first phase bans for each game the players used in the series. Roll swaps. They work just like regular season. The only thing to note is, like I said, like regular season, you can't do it mid-series, even if series goes across multiple days. Cannot do it between days. One thing to note is if your roll swap penalty would change your standing in regular season, it's an illegal roll swap. So if at the regular season, say you're at 300 points and another team's at 299, you can't use a roll swap that would give you a penalty because you'd be below that team now. So yeah, first stage of playoffs is a Swiss stage. Top 8 teams go here. There's a full description of every round here. I'm going to summarize. So Swiss stage basically means you play teams with the same record as you until you either advance or are eliminated. The thresholds for these with 8 teams is 2, which means 2 wins and you advance, 2 losses and you're eliminated. So 3 total rounds, because the most games you can have is 2-1 or 1-2. First round of Swiss stage is best of 5, and in this round, all the 0-0 teams, which is all the teams, are going to be playing against each other. For opponent selection, it goes to the highest seed team of regular season, choosing from the lower seeds. So seeds 1 through 4, choosing from 5 through 8, 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order, obviously. And you play best of 5. For rounds 2 and 3 of Swiss stage, they're best of 7s across 2 days. We'll talk about the best of 7 format soon. For those of you who are familiar with the best of 7 format, if it's not FBDLs, it is different. If it's a different league, best of 7, our format is different. So we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, so after the first round of Swiss, second round comes. There's 4 teams that are 1-0, 4 teams that are 0-2. 1-0s will play against each other. 0-1s will play against each other. Then 2 teams will have advanced and 2 teams will be eliminated. 2 teams will be 2-0, advance, 0-2, eliminated. And all the rest are 1-1 now. 1-1s will play against each other. And after that, 2 teams will be 2-1, 2 teams will be 1-2. 2-1 is advancement, 0-1-2 is elimination. Which means 4 total teams advance from the Swiss stage and go to the bracket stage. In the bracket stage, it's just a standard bracket stage. Seeding is determined by Swiss stage record, then regular season record, which means the 2-0 teams will get to choose their opponent. Or, well, I guess the 2-0 team with the best regular season record will choose their opponent from the 1-2 teams, and the last 2 teams will play against each other. Bracket stage is all best of 7s. For best of 7s, one thing to note, first 4 games, not 3, are played on the first day, and the rest, if there is any, if it's not a 4-0, are played on the second day. With our format, it is very, 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 very unlikely for it to there ever be a 4-0. Our format for best of 7s and best of 5s is kind of geared to make each series go the distance, unless one team is just clearly better by far. Then they can win earlier than 5, 6, 7 games. But most times the series will go the distance. So this is the best of 5 format. I'm not going to go through this because it's a shortened version of the best of 7 format, and it's only used in one day. If you want to read up on it, please do. Be my guest. But I'm going to skip over here to the best of 7 format. So, like I said, 4 games first day, 3 games second day. max games per series. Yeah, so games 1 and 2. There's some carryover between these rules. You'll see here that games are paired in this format. 1 and 2 are here, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. There's reasons for that, and we're about to go over that. So games 1 and 2, rosters are submitted at the same time, and the games are played at the same time. So there's a couple reasons for that. One is to save time, because 1 and 2 are played at the same time. It saves time, right? 2 is to match up even matchups. Now, I worded that poorly, but I'll explain. So, when you submit 2 rosters, one is going to be higher point than the other, one is going to be lower point than the other. This is the case for both teams. So, both teams' higher point roster is going to go against each other, and both teams' lower point roster is going to go against each other. This is the case for games 1 and 2. This is the case for games 3 and 4. This is the case for games 5 and 6. When I said this format is geared to make each series go the distance, that is one of the main reasons how. And it also makes it more fun for lower point players to exist in playoffs. It removes situations in which there is massive point disparities in games, high point versus low points, and just throwing the low points to the wolves completely removes those. Makes it a good time for everyone. One thing to note with games 1 and 2, other than the concurrent playing and the high point, low point matching, is that each roster must be completely unique. And this is written here, but it's also, if you think about it, kind of a given, because you can't play both games at the same time if there's a duplicate player in them. So yeah, 10 unique players across these games. Games 3 and 4, this is still the case with an exception. There's an 11th player that doesn't play in games 1 and 2. There's 11-man rosters, only 10 people can play. That player has to play in both games 3 and 4, which means a couple things. One, the uniqueness rule does not apply to that player. The other 8 players must be unique, but that player is present in both games. That also means the games will be played one at a time. They can't be played concurrently because there's a duplicate player. He can't play 2 games at the same time. So that's the change up there. Games 5 and 6 is similar. Rosters are still submitted at the same time. There's still high point, low point matching. Uniqueness is not enforced. And there's some more rules regarding that 11th player from games 1 and 2. You can read up on those. I'm not going to go through those. It gets kind of weird. But it's all here. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me, open a ticket, asking the questions channel, any of the above. Best way to do that is post in this forum that this video is in. That's just contact in any way you feel like, really. Prefer not DM, but whatever happens. I can't stop you. So yeah, that's how games 1 through 6 work. Game 7, it's obviously not paired with another. It's game 7. The main thing to note here is no more than 2 players from a given tier may be present in this game. So 2 from one tier, 2 from another tier, 1 from another tier. Up to you how you distribute that, as long as you're following the rules of each player must have 3 games by the end. And I believe... yeah. I think that's it. Okay. And that's it. That's the rulebook. It is obviously always subject to change, but most of this, if not all of it, will be the same going into the season. If there's any changes, you'll be aware of it. We'll let you know. We're pretty open about that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, like I said, open a ticket, post in this forum, preferably one of those 2. Ask in the questions channel, DM me. Whatever you're going to do, whatever I say here is not going to change that probably. So there's that. One last thing to note, we do a lot of cool things in this league. Sending people physical trophies, the graphics we get made, the stream production, all that. It isn't cheap. If you click Final Boss Esports up here, when you're on the rulebook and go to shop, you can buy some cool merch. Help us out a little bit. I'm chilling a little bit here, but look at it from my POV, you know? And hey, merch doesn't look bad. I'm wearing it right now. But anyways, that's the rulebook walkthrough. If you have any questions about the rulebook, you know what to do. See ya.